welcome. We're so glad you're here. You know, as we approach the end of this year, it's a common time to reflect on maybe what last year looked like and set some intentions for the incoming new year. Now, I don't know about you, but I often fall into the trap of trying to change way too much too fast, and it doesn't work. In fact, it usually backfires. Also, I find diabetes an especially tricky thing. I mean, if you think about it, we're so focused on our numbers and decisions and behaviors, and diabetes doesn't always follow the rules. So it's easy to be unrealistic about the goals with diabetes and get yourself all worked up. So we want to share some tried and true tips and tricks to help you be realistic about the goals you set for yourself and how you approach them. So before we get too far along, let's do some introductions and then quick housekeeping, and then we'll get started. Carrie, can you introduce yourself for the folks joining?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie. I'm the case manager here at Blue Circle Health. Hopefully I've met some of you. If not, hopefully I get to work with you in the future. But I'm really excited to talk about realistic goal settings. A lot of these tips are coming from experience as being a health coach and focus on weight loss, but I think a lot of it translates to type 1 diabetes. So I'm happy to bring this to everyone.
I'm thrilled that you're doing this for us too, Carrie. And I agree, a lot of it does translate. My name is Scott Johnson. I'm a senior manager of community here at Blue Circle Health. I've lived with type 1 diabetes for 44 years, and I just really appreciate you allowing me the honor and privilege of hosting today. In terms of agenda, we've got a great presentation that Carrie will guide us through that offers some helpful tips for realistic goal setting with type 1 diabetes. That should take us somewhere between 20 or 30 minutes, and we've got plenty of time for questions and discussion at the end. So if you have anything that you want to ask about or something you'd want to talk about, maybe just struggles and successes around setting goals with your health and your diabetes, we've got plenty of time for that. Before we get going too far, though, I do need to cover some quick housekeeping items. So we welcome and encourage you to use the chat feature along the way. It's a great way to share with the group, and we'll keep an eye on it throughout the session if you need anything as well. And as I just mentioned, we'll take questions after Carrie's presentation and then open up for discussion. Now, there are a few ways to ask questions during today's session. If you see a Q&A button on your Zoom screen, you can use that. But if you don't see a Q&A button, feel free to use the chat. And then if you'd like to share something during the discussion time, you can use the raise hand feature, which might be inside the reactions button, or just let us know in the chat. Either way, once we know that you'd like to share, we'll press some buttons on our side to bring you on screen. But don't worry, your camera will stay off. You may need to press allow or give permissions for Zoom to unmute your microphone. Please also let us know in the chat your name or what you'd like us to call you. You know, sometimes Zoom puts in a default name like iPhone user 12, which is just a little weird. We'd love to know your name. And then one last thing about the chat, you'll see a setting where you can pick to send chat messages to everyone or just the hosts and panelists. Be aware of that setting when you're chatting to make sure your message goes where you want it to go. All right, just a few more quick things that we need to mention. Participation in this event is completely voluntary. You may choose to leave at any time. Participation may reveal your identity and any identifying information that you share with other group participants. For example, in the chat or if you share something during the open discussion time. This session is being recorded, and disrespectful, disruptive behavior won't be tolerated, and we reserve the right to remove anyone at any time. I'm hoping we won't have to do that, though. And then finally, we're not providing any medical advice, individual or otherwise, and may refer you back to your healthcare team for detailed and individualized answers. Okay, I know that was a lot. Thank you for your patience with me. Let's get on with the good stuff. Carrie, over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. You went through the very important stuff, Scott. Um, so I wanted to first open it up to anyone who wants to put in the chat. Couple of questions just to think about as we're dealing or going into this topic before I share some of the tips that I have. So a couple questions I had for you is how often do you set goals for yourself, either New Year's resolution or otherwise throughout the year? How successful have you felt with goal setting? And do you plan to set a goal for yourself soon? So I loved you took some time to think about that. If you feel comfortable sharing, you can put it in the chat or raise your hand and we can unmute you. If not, we'll go through all of these in a little bit more detail. And also, I forgot my main credential, the one that everyone can take all of what I'm saying for the value that it is that I've had diabetes for going on 22 years now. So I use all of these tips and tricks that are coming up. So hopefully I can give some credibility to what I'm talking about and be able to apply all of this to life with type 1. All right, thank you, Scott. So setting some goals around this time of the year. Yep, sticking to them is definitely a main concern. And then so we have, let's see, I don't think you can see who else is there. I see about 13 people currently here. So you can send out a message that everyone can see, or you can send it just to Scott and me with the host and panelist option on the chat. But yes, you can't see the names of other people who are here, so they also can't see you. All right, so we'll keep going on from here. So New Year's resolutions and other big goals are commonly set, as Scott had mentioned. However, many people do struggle to continue on with their motivation throughout the year. Why, you might be wondering? There are a couple of reasons. One might be that the goal feels too big or unachievable. Another might be that they don't know how to get started on such a big goal or a big change, or they might just not see the need for a big change. New Year's resolutions are a big question for everybody, and sometimes we just don't have them, and that's okay. But if this sounds like you or you're wanting to make a change for 2025, let's go through some tips in order to be successful. Really quick, checking in on the chat. Let's see. So setting goals for yourself for a few months. But yeah, being too big and ambitious with the goals for okay, so yeah, that's fine if you can only get through the month with the goals that you're setting. Yeah, all right. So for today, we're going to be talking about different styles of goals. We'll define what a SMART goal is, which is one common structure. If you want to, and if you need help, I can assist you with it in creating a goal that moves you towards your desired outcome, and consider mindsets that serve you the best. All right, a couple more coming in from the chat. So see, setting goals sporadically, that's okay. Yep, you definitely get that with not being able to stick to those goals. The New Year's resolutions, they just have such a weight behind them. So we're going to have to try to get past that today. And then Sherry, trying to set a goal and an action. Ooh, an action word. That's a good one. If that helps you to create like kind of an atmosphere for yourself, be sure to write that down if you are one to set a action word. All right. So let's think about some common New Year's resolutions. Some that might come to mind as a structure might be something like, I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to get my A1C below 7%. I want to run a marathon. I want to move. I want a new job. Maybe even I just want to be happy. Those are some common ones that I've heard. But looking at all of these, I see one thing that they all have in common, that they're all outcomes. So these focus on what you want to happen at the end, ideally by the end of the year. However, the how or the process is missing in each of these. So you may want, so what we do want to focus more on is what we want to achieve. However, the getting there, it can get in the way of feeling motivated and feeling successful along the way. So another way to look at your goal is thinking about an action goal. And that's one that's going to focus on the how or the action that someone's going to take. And multiple action goals can work towards becoming an outcome goal. And both of these goals can exist together. So you could make a New Year's resolution goal that's more of an outcome goal, and then throughout the month set action goals that lead you towards your bigger outcome goal. Another thing that you can do is figuring out your why. And this can help to ensure that the goal that you're aiming for is one that truly benefits you. So you might have heard the phrase, find your why at some point, but to be honest, it can be hard to figure out. Your why is the reason that you are doing something. For example, focusing on your health. But it's a really big question. So, in doing an exercise like this, I like to take what I call the toddler approach. As if you've met a toddler, they ask why way too many times, and no answer really seems to make them happy. Try doing this approach with yourself. The answer that you come up with at the very end, after asking yourself all of these whys, can be surprising, and this can be a really important one. So make sure that you write it down, as this is going to be what you're really aiming for and why you're setting these goals. Coming back to it later, especially if you find your motivation going down, that can help to respark that motivation and keep going, or give you a better idea of a change for a better outcome for you. All right, so that's kind of vague without having an example of it. If anyone is brave enough and wants to try it, I'm happy to try it out and be the toddler for you as they figure out what that why could be for someone. If anyone is brave enough, if not, I'm going to make Scott do it.
You can either raise your hand or let us know in the chat if you'd like to volunteer and get some extra like one-on-one attention on your why with Carrie. We'll just give folks a moment or two to think about that.
Oh, I see a hand raise.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. 1 second. All right,
Hey,
you should be able to talk now. Thanks,
yep.
Michelle.
Hi, you're welcome, Scott.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Carrie, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Pretty good. I'm happy to see both of you.
Oh, good to hear you since I can't see you right now, but good to hear you. Yeah, so for this exercise, do you have something in mind or even just a general goal? And I'm going to ask you why a bunch of times.
Okay. I do have something in mind.
Okay,
I
go for
want
it.
to start walking
Okay,
as a form of exercise and just getting outside and well, when it's not yucky out, but to, be able to help my A1C and I feel like I've still want to lose some weight. So,
okay. Man, you cut out a lot of my whys right there. But
uh-oh.
so, so why do you want to lose some weight and affect your A1C?
My A1C has been higher in the past,
Mhm.
and I feel like not fully comfortable in my body right now.
Okay. So why is it important to feel good inside your body right now?
Because it's only me in here, and I need to be comfy.
Okay. Okay. And why do you need to feel comfy? Like, what do you want to achieve with that?
I actually want to look nicer as well, but I really just want to be comfortable. I don't want to have sit down and be conscious of like my muffin top or the icing on the cake or whatever you
Okay.
want to call it.
Okay. And why is getting rid of that feeling important to you?
Oh boy, there are a lot of whys.
Oh, so many.
Um, let's see, I think it'll make my confidence stronger and my overall self of being uh, not as not as cumbersome, I say.
Okay. So coming down to the self-confidence and how you're feeling about yourself. Does this
Mhm.
feel like something that you want to aim all of your goals for? Or do you want me to ask you why one more time?
Um, I think I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, so we went through a lot of whys. I could ask you a bunch more in the very beginning, but you answered them on your own along the way, from getting started with walking all the way leading up to how you want to change your confidence level and how you're feeling inside of your body. So that can be a really big difference between how you formulate future goals instead of just being like, I want to walk because I should, to
Mm,
I want to walk because I want it to improve my confidence and feel the best that I can in my own body.
makes
Thank you.
sense.
Yeah, thank you for going through that with me. It's tough getting asked why a bunch of times.
It is, yeah.
But I'm hoping that having that that difference in answers of the I should do this to the deeper reason why I want to do this for me
Right.
can make it a little bit different as you're looking at those goals in the future.
Thank you.
Sure. So thank you for that. I know that was very bold of you to raise your hand. So thank you, thank you. Hope that was a good confidence boost for you.
It was. And I feel safe with you guys here anyway.
Oh, well, thank you. And I've met with you before, so I'm glad to hear that from you. But yeah, be sure to write that down so that you can come back to it for those times that motivation might be feeling low, or you're just like, oh, I don't want to walk right now, to knowing
Mhm.
why you set that goal in the very first place.
Okay.
That was for everybody, not just for you, Michelle. That's how you can use that find your why exercise. It sounds silly, especially when I call it the toddler approach. It's just what I like to name it. But it's something that ideally will be able to bring back that motivation that it sounds like from the chat. A couple of people lose fairly quickly into the year. I know I do that too. If I set a goal that I should, um, rather than something that goes along with the deeper reason of why I want to make a change. All right, did I miss anything in the chat? Um, Checking in on that. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully everyone could see me. Yeah, that I think you could swipe. Scott, do we know any troubleshooting for making the picture bigger, or is it mostly just that those slides are too big?
I don't know off the top of my head, but thank you for that feedback, Lisa. It's something we'll definitely investigate and hopefully make better for the future sessions.
Yes, we are figuring out Zoom and all the features as they change. We will try to figure that out. So thank you for that. All right, I didn't see any other questions or requests for help with a why. Um, but yeah, if anything comes up, feel free to put in the chat and we can definitely get to it towards the end. But thank you again, Michelle, for being so brave and doing that example with me. All right, so moving on to SMART goals, kind of talked about why you're setting different goals and how they can go towards what you actually want. SMART goal is a way to put it together. So it's a detailed action goal that helps you to reach bigger goals. And a SMART goal could be a big goal or a bunch of smaller goals that lead up to a bigger one. So the S in SMART goals stands for specific. That means that your goal is going to be concrete and actionable. The next one is measurable, and that it's going to contain a measure of success. So if you take an example that I had earlier in the slides of I want to be happy, like that's a goal that I hear a lot from people. But I would encourage you to think about how to measure it objectively. Because personally, I think this goal is a little bit too subjective, and I'd want to change how I'm measuring the success and then define when I consider myself done for happy. Another one is A for attainable. So this is where you can ask yourself, can I actually do this? Something like losing 10 pounds in a week is not attainable in a healthy way. So be honest with yourself on how doable your goal is. There are no judges here when it comes to what your goal is and if it's good enough. And if you can't physically do the goal, you're only working against yourself. No goal is too small as long as you are moving towards your end desire. Next is R for relevant. This one's probably a little bit obvious, but aim to pick an action that goes along with your bigger outcome goal. If your goal is to lose weight and you set a SMART goal about reading each month, maybe rethink that one. Lastly is time bound. This one can be very important, especially as we're looking at it in the context of New Year's resolutions and how that fails people. So year is a really, really long time. Starting something in January and then not thinking about the steps that you're taking and if they're working until you get to December might not be the best approach for you. So consider a smaller time frame, whether that's as small as 2 weeks, a little bit bigger as a month. Figure out what that time frame would look like for you, and then you can evaluate what is or is not working. And also consider at that time if you're ready to move on to the next goal because you achieved that smaller goal. This is another time where I'm going to open it up if anyone has a goal in mind that they want to smartify a little bit. So if you've thought of those goals that feel a little bit too vague and you want to lock down a SMART goal, happy to help out with that. If we have any other brave people, If not, I think Scott might have an idea in mind.
I do, but I'd love for someone attending to again kind of take that brave step and have a chance to work with Carrie. All right, Christian, let me press some buttons here. There you go.
Hey,
Hi guys,
Christian.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. I just want to share one of the basic goals that we type 1 diabetes patients always have, like lowering A1C. One of the biggest steps that in my case I try to do very often by using any CGM is to check regularly. Because if in my case I actually using right now the Libre 2, so I have to physically do something to get a number, that that small action that I do every day can help me to at least keep track of whatever is going on.
Mhm.
And again, trying to move the orange or red to the green type of thing on the timing range battle that we have every day. So
Right.
that's one of the ways that I try to do it in a daily basis. It's like as often as possible to check, just to be mindful of it. So yeah, that's my tip for you guys today.
Oh, that's awesome. And if you wanted to, you could even smartify that on making sure that you get the time part in there since you need to scan at a certain amount of times. That's awesome. It sounds like you have a good goal up there. And I hope that helps out with your time and range.
thank you, Christian. Do we have anyone else that wants to go through the a SMART exercise with one of your goals with Carrie? It's a pretty cool opportunity. I do have an example I can share and go through it, but I'd love for someone else to. Uh,
Oh, I see another hand raised.
Sherry, okay, 1 second. All
Hi,
right, Sherry, you
Carrie.
should be with us.
Okay, so I would like to run the turkey trot five. It's not a 5K, it's a 5 mile
Okay.
for Thanksgiving next year in
Okay. In
And
Buffalo?
in Buffalo, yeah.
Okay.
So I know that that's kind of a big goal, but I need help setting more smaller attainable goals so I can get there in November.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like you have that outcome goal, which is time bound since you have a date for that already. So let's take a look at the attainable part for right now and figure out how small of a goal you want to start with. So let's see. So starting with specific, it's going to be related to running, obviously, and that's going to go with the relevant. So we have S. We're going to work on A. We have R, and then also work on T and then the M also just to round out the word. All right. So, what do you think is an attainable first part for you, given how much you know about your ability to run right now?
So I used to run all the time,
Okay.
but it's been a while. So first
Okay.
of all, I need to do it. I guess my real goal is to finish it, right? Because it's 5 miles. And so
Okay.
um I'd like to run it all, but I just want to finish it. So I think probably the first thing that I need to do is actually maybe set some time or mileage to do each day, like start with half a mile or something like that
Mhm.
for a period of time.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a great way to make it specific. It sounds like in order for it to be attainable, it sounds like mixing up running and walking in order to hit that distance is more important than running the full distance. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, so feel free to put that as the specific of either run or walk. Um, just since we're really focusing on the attainable part, since we want you to get all the way through until Thanksgiving of next year. We have those months ahead. So I
Yes.
would say, so starting out with I will run slash walk. What do you feel like is an attainable first distance for this very, very first goal? We're not going to judge you.
Probably just a mile to start
Okay.
with.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to, so you can structure it as I will. I didn't put this in the slides, but I will is a good way to start out the goals as a way to take out the wishing part, which
Mhm.
leaves like a little bit of magic to it. But if you say I will, it's going to put yourself in that forward-facing motion of doing something. So I'd encourage you to structure this goal as I will walk or run for I apologize. I immediately forgot. A half a mile or 1 mile?
1 mile to
1
start with.
mile. Okay. All right. So I will run or walk 1 mile. How about measurable? How many days a week do you think would be attainable for you to walk or run 1 mile?
I would say probably to start with, probably 2 miles. I mean, sorry, 2 days.
2 days a
2
week?
days a
Okay.
week.
So you can say, I will run or walk 1 mile 2 days a week. Um, you can make it more specific if you want to, depending on how you prefer to structure yourself. You could say, like, you could pick what those 2 days are. Or if you want to say at the end of your week, if that's a Saturday or a Sunday, just looking back on the week and say, yes, I did do those two, depending on how you as a personality prefer to define those 2 days.
I would probably do Tuesdays and Thursdays because I try and do strength training on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Okay, perfect. Um, that sounds like it could be a separate goal entirely, just so we don't end up like mixing up too much into it.
Okay.
So you could do one goal related to that since that changes at a different rate than the running. So you could say, okay, we're testing my memory here because I didn't write it down, but I will run or walk 1 mile on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Thursday. Yeah.
Okay, and then time bound will be the last one of how long you want to give yourself to do that specific statement before you reevaluate it.
So I think I would say maybe a month. 1 month, I would, for the month of January,
Okay.
I will walk 1 mile every Tuesday and Thursday. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And then at the end of January, you can reevaluate that goal. Since it's measurable, you'll be able to say yes or no to those 2 days a week, or even the more specific Tuesday and Thursday. And then there's no judgment at that point. So if you did it, fantastic. If you didn't, that would be a good time to evaluate what got in the way so that you could plan for your next goal for, if you want to repeat that goal in February or make some changes to make it the most attainable for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. How does that feel as a goal compared to that New Year's resolution of I want to run the turkey trot in Thanksgiving of 2025?
No, I think it will definitely be because it's small, right? Like I can do 1 mile and build up, but if I say I need to do 5 miles, that does seem very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that it's definitely something that I can do and set it for January and then see how I do and
Oh,
see if
perfect.
I'm ready to progress to like maybe a mile and a quarter after
There
that.
you go. There you go. I hear you really leaning into that attainable part of it,
Yeah.
since that first goal of 5 miles felt so big. I love that, instead of saying, okay, February, I'm going to do 2 miles, that you gave yourself the grace of saying, maybe I'll only be able to do 1 and a quarter, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So thank
Yeah,
you for that, Sherry.
I think saying it out loud too helps.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely, especially as you had to listen to me try to repeat it back to you. Then you hear it enough times. If it didn't feel tangible to begin with, hearing it back and even in your own voice can make it feel a bit different than just originally saying that I want to do this 5 mile run in November for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Thank you.
Does it
Sure.
also, can I ask another question? And Sherry, hang with us for
Okay.
a few minutes here. What if I'm not sure? I'm gonna like lean into Sherry's example. What if I haven't run in so long, but I don't know how long I can, distance wise, would it
Yeah.
also fit this model to say, all right, I'm gonna start out by walking for a certain amount of time versus a distance? Does that also work?
Definitely. So all these are just pieces that you can just put in. So that's why the attainability of where Sherry was coming from was the starting point for it. So she has a history of running. But if you're there's even an app for Couch to 5K if you want kind of a guidance on how to get started like that. But seeing what feels achievable for your body is going to be the best place to start. And, no one's judging you if you can't run a mile. I don't know if I can run a mile anymore, but so that doesn't have to be the first step in order to be successful. You could be even that specific part of I will see how far I can get in this amount of time, instead of saying I'll run and walk for this distance.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. I like
Yeah.
that because I think sometimes, I mean, like I remember how I used to be able to meet these things. That wouldn't have been a problem. But
Mhm.
it's like I liked how running made me feel. But then when you haven't done it for so long, it's like you have to work back up to that. And that working back up to that is the part that seems overwhelming, right? You just want to get back
Yeah,
to where you could do those things. So,
exactly.
yeah. So, but thank you. Thank you for walking me through that. I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you for run walking that with me. But yeah, you did a great job of doing a really tough thing, which is thinking about where your body is right now instead of where it was however long ago. Like it's unrealistic to compare your body to last year's, to 5 years ago, to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you are giving yourself the grace that your body has changed and that you're more questioning what you're capable of instead of beating yourself up that you weren't where you were when you stopped running.
Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
That's great. Thanks so much, Sherry. And Carrie, I want to stick with this topic for a
Yeah,
moment. I have some great questions and
sure.
comments in the chat. So, and this maybe is leading into where you're going to go next with the worksheet, but Lisa suggested adding, like even drilling down into some more specifics, right? Like, are you going to walk outside, or is it on a treadmill? And is that something that you'll cover a little bit in the spreadsheet? Or
Yeah,
the
we have a wonderful worksheet that I'll get to in the next one. But yes, that specific is gonna be as personalizable as you want it to be. So if you, I, that's why with Sherry, I challenged her if there were days of the week that she wanted to define or leave it open, depending on how much trust you have in yourself to, hold on to the 2 days if they're not set. Oh no, my chat is scooching. But looking back at
Okay, I got it. Well,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So what you said, so if you want to define, if you want to do it outdoors, if you want to define it even that, I'm not a runner, but I've heard from runners that running outside is harder than a treadmill. That, if you want to do however many days outside versus how many days inside, we're taking weather into account, we're taking time into account. So that level of specificity is going to be entirely personalized to you, and there's no wrong answer. As long as it's attainable. When I would set goals with people, that was always my question. I'd be like, okay, great, you set a goal. Can you do it? Like, can you do it? Like, are you sure you can do it? Is going to be the main thing. Because if the answer is no, the goal will fail, and that's not going to do anything but make you feel bad and less likely to set another goal.
Yeah, that feeds right into another question from
Sure.
where she talks about like if the goal that you come up with is unattainable, how do you adjust that? And the example she shared was maybe setting a goal to walk every day, no matter the weather, right? But
Yeah.
then that might not really be attainable. So how do you back yourself down from that? But you still want to kind of push yourself a little bit, right? There's a balance there,
Mhm.
isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't actually put it into this presentation, but I can certainly talk about it. Another example that I give is, or not example, but a technique of setting floor and push goals. So imagine yourself right in the middle. The floor goal is like what you can do on your worst day. So if what you can do in your worst day is walk 2,000 steps, make that your goal for that day. If you're aiming for walking a mile as your mid goal, go for that. And then there's a push goal where on your best day, or say you hit that 1 mile and you're feeling great and you want to keep going, you can go for a push goal. And that even can make a spectrum. So of depending on how you're feeling, that allows you to kind of change up the goal based on your body for the day. And that way, at no point are you wrong because your floor goal is the one that you know you can do on your worst day. So that allows you to collect those wins, even if you're not feeling the best.
I
And
really
then the push
like that.
goals,
Because it gives you,
yeah.
for some of the goals that we're setting for ourselves, some of the circumstances are not really in our control, right? So
Mhm.
that keeping that positive momentum emotionally around that goal is such a huge deal with that. So that's a really great approach.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that a little bit more in a couple of slides. Any other related questions coming in?
I think we're good for now. We've got some good questions that we'll talk about a little bit later, but let's keep rolling for now.
Okay. Okay, yeah. All right. So, if you came to our last webinar, I told you about our resource section on the Blue Circle Health website. I'm going to tap into that again. And Scott, if you're able to post the link for that, that would be helpful. So this worksheet is one that can be helpful if you prefer to write out plans or see something written in paper in order to remember it. It can be found on our Blue Circle Health website, which is bluecirclehealth.org. You click on T1D resources for all of our resources. This one is located under the resources for healthcare professionals. You can click on it even if you're not a healthcare professional. And then hiding under screening and prescribing resources, we have our SMART goal worksheet for patients. I have the first page on this slide. It's probably a little bit small, but I'll just talk about it. It starts out with the goal date, with your goal written out, your start date and the target date right at the top. Having this written out can keep your goals on the top of your mind rather than letting them drift away, as I've forgotten many of my New Year's resolutions by the time July rolls around. And the worksheet offers some space as well as some additional questions to help you form those SMART goals when you don't have me here to go through them with you in detail. There's a second page of this worksheet, and that's going to tap more into your why with some space in order to write out the goals, importance, and benefits, which is just another way to look at your why and how they're going to directly affect you. And another great space is obstacles and solutions, kind of like what I had brought up. But here you can write out any potential obstacles that could get in the way, with weather being one of them, the conditions outside another one. And you can pre-plan what those obstacles might be and what those solutions are. So you have that goal to run. How can weather be an obstacle? What can you do? So in the solutions, maybe you could write, I'll go to my local gym. I'll use a treadmill that I have at home at a friend's house. Even as simple as planning a suitable outfit if it's a little bit more wet outside than normal. And planning ahead can help you to move through the bumps in the road faster and with more confidence, since it's not going to be a brand new scenario each and every time. The worksheet also encourages you to pick some support people who can help you out along the way. It doesn't have to be one person. It can be a bunch of people, each who have their own strengths to help you out. All right, so hopefully you're able to take a look at that worksheet, and especially if you're one that likes to write out along the way. And the final section of the worksheet is the specific action section. So these are the SMART goals that you can write out. You can break down your bigger goal into smaller steps, and really importantly, write out those wins. So our brains are actually programmed to remember the bad parts of life more than the good. So do yourself a favor and write down your wins so that you can remember them easily. It's another trick for when that motivation is feeling a bit low, to be able to look at just a list of all of the things that have gone really well for you. And it really boosts the motivation when all of those wins for you are related to your big goal. And reaching your goals, it's never a straight line. It's normal to run into those bumps in the road and need to adjust those goals, either the specifics of them or the time frames. So be sure to give yourself some grace in doing this, and remember that no goal is too small as long as it works for you. So going back to with the about, if it changes up with the goal for you, just make sure that you know that the goal affects you the most. So going for one that's too hard is just going to hurt you and no one else. So go ahead and make that adjustment, even if it's outside of the time frame that you'd originally set for yourself. All right, and then kind of going off with the floor and push goals, another way to put it is the non-negotiables. So we all have T1D here. Sometimes the time is not ours to decide. There are lows, there are highs, there are tech issues, there are sick days. All of these happen and rarely are they on our schedule. I've had many plans thrown off by surprises of type 1, very fun, but it's very easy to get sucked into a mindset like why bother, or just feeling defeated by it. So a trick that I use for keeping up with goals in life are these non-negotiables. So these are the actions that you must do as defined by you. And it can be helpful as it reduces your to-do list during your time. So we talked about the floor goals and the push goals. If you want to put it in the SMART goal setting, that's one example. Thinking about it in just day-to-day life, you can just do it for yourself. So one example that I was thinking of is that morning routines are really important for me to get my day going. I have a list of tasks that I want to do each morning. However, slow mornings happen, especially after a rough type 1 night. There are a couple of juice boxes on the nightstand. I don't want to go through my whole list. So thinking about what are my non-negotiables. Brushing my teeth, that's a non-negotiable. I'm going to do that when I'm not feeling great. Making my bed, it's nice, but it can be left off if I need to save that energy. Pre-bolusing for my breakfast, that's going to be a non-negotiable for me. But creating a really balanced and healthy meal in order to set my day up for success, that's not going to be the day to do it. So I'll keep up with my non-negotiables, let the rest fall by the wayside, and give myself the permission to let those go by the wayside and not feel guilty about them. That's just a little tip for life, or putting it in the floor goals and the push goals when looking at it in the bigger goal settings. Oh, you're very welcome, Michelle. All right. Another is adding or subtracting. So adding to your life is not the only way to be successful. Consider what you can subtract this next year in order to get to your goals and be able to help them out. So one of our guides, Xanadu, to all of those who have met Xanadu, she's lovely. She shared in a recent group session that she looks back in the year and thinks about what habit, what behavior, and what stance she can let go of for the next year. And I think that's a really great take on New Year's resolution. Adding to your plate might be overwhelming, so see what you can take off in order to make room for more of your life. And SMART goals can be used here too, in the same kind of structure, just thinking about what you can do less of in order to make more room for you. So some questions that I threw up on this slide are, what habit no longer serves you, what behaviors keep you from your success, and which stance or belief holds you back. All right, and new year, new year. New year, new you. How many times have you heard that one before? If it feels like more pressure than it is for help, feel free to modify it. I could say new year, same you. Not a problem at all. There's no need to reinvent yourself 60, 70, 80 times in your entire life. You can feel your best, continue on in 2025. If you're happy with how you were in 2024, go for it. How about mid-year new you? Not as catchy, but there is definitely no rule saying that you need to start all of your resolutions in January or January 1st. Maybe you don't have the mental space right now, but you might in a few weeks or even a couple of months. Goals can be set at any time, so don't feel pressured to have to do everything by January 1st. And no matter what your goals are for 2025, we're here to support you. So thank you for taking the time this evening to focus on you. That's all that I have for content, but I am more than happy to talk through any questions that you might have, or if anybody wants a little support on their goals.
Yeah, let's talk about how, so Amy had a great question about, she's not really sure what goals she should set and kind of struggles with tackling that. And that's something I also wrestle with myself. So it's a great question. What comes to mind for you with that, Carrie?
Yeah, that's great if you're feeling like there's so many options. I guess there's two different ways. One is there's so many options I don't know what to choose, or there's the opposite of I don't need to do anything. If you don't need to make any changes, that's perfect. You can stick with that. If you're not sure what kind of goal that you want to do, one good place to start is a why of like, what do I like about myself? What do I want to change about myself? And what can I do with a new version of me? Trying to figure out where you could go. I remember one time a couple years ago, I did the why exercise with someone, and it started with what was their starting goal? I think it was something like, I want to lose 5 pounds this month. And that was their goal over and over again for months on end. And I was like, they were very frustrated and they kept setting the goal no matter how many times I pushed for, what if we change a different goal? So we tried the why exercise, and after many whys, as the toddler me can do, it came down to that they wanted to be able to get up off the floor so that they can order or get down to the floor to begin with in order to play with their grandkids. And that helped them to adjust their goal more than just like the basic one of I want to lose 5 pounds, but really digging into the nitty-gritty of why they wanted to make a change gave them more of a direction and finding some small goals to get them there than just saying, I want to lose 5 pounds.
Yeah, I think that's great. And mentioned in the comments that that helps her, so that's wonderful. That's another great question about kind of how do you've got your goals and you've got maybe gone through the why exercise, but you still just find yourself not quite doing the thing that you said you want to do, which is that's a super common pitfall. So first of all, don't feel bad or guilty that that's happening to you because that's a very normal part of this process. But how might you approach something like that?
Yeah, that's a good one. If you find yourself just not doing the thing that you set out to do, um, trying to evaluate first what obstacle is getting in the way, because there could be an actual obstacle. Sticking with the running, that it's raining too much this month and it's hard to get out for running. That's one approach that you could take, and what the obstacle is and what some viable solutions might be. Another is the motivation side. A lot of people think that you need motivation in order to move. Actually, the other way around, that you need to move in order to maintain the motivation. So if that seems to be where you're feeling stuck, figuring out how to get moving, no matter how small, is really going to get you going. I always struggle without an example in mind, but yeah, let's just stick with running. That's a good one. So say Sherry, it's a Tuesday and you do not want to get out of bed to start your mile run. Once is fine. That happens, and that's where the modifiable goals can be really helpful. But if you find it's happening every Tuesday and Thursday that you're not getting up, thinking about where we can back up and how do we get the movement going in order for the motivation to catch up. And it might be throwing out that goal entirely and looking at something smaller, like my shoes are hurting my feet, so let's start there. And because my feet hurt, I don't want to go for a run. So backing it up all the way there to making an even smaller goal, maybe a goal that you think is too small, of taking a look at, should I buy new shoes? Can I do anything to my shoes? Do they need to be tied differently? And sometimes looking at what doesn't seem to be the issue can fix the issue.
Yeah, and again, thank you. So she shares a very good example that I think will be interesting to talk through here, and that is not taking insulin with each meal, right? And so I'd love to hear what you think about that. And I suspect that there's like, is it a busy thing? Are you afraid of lows? Is it like digging a little bit deeper, right? But what do you think about that, Carrie?
Oh yeah, that's a wonderful example of how we can look at this. Yeah, I would challenge you
She
to
chimes in the chat and says lazy. She's
no, lazy is not something that we are. There's always something going on psychologically, and I always blame our inner toddler. So it's always the toddler that's inside of us that says no and doesn't want to do it. So instead of calling yourself lazy, just blame your toddler. Toddlers are easy to blame. So when it comes to taking insulin, challenging what the thought is and not having a judgment about what the thought is. If it's just the I don't want to do this because I'm tired of having type 1, valid. If it's this hurts, valid. Whatever the reason of, like, I'm hungry now and I don't want to wait 15 minutes, valid. I would encourage you to identify what the thought is on why you don't want to do the insulin. You're even backing it up to the point where you're even telling yourself you don't want to do the insulin. If you're forgetting, that's a whole different route. But if it's that you don't want to do it, I would encourage you to identify what that thought is, no matter how ridiculous it might sound to you, and record that, and then challenge that, see how it can connect to your why, and trick the toddler into doing the thing you want the toddler to do, which is to go for your why. This is like psych on baby level.
That's great. I think this is very helpful.
The chat has been blowing up more than I can follow. So am I missing more
That's
questions
all
than
right.
you
I
can
got
see?
you. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I'll bring questions forward. I
Okay.
had a thought relative to the question that you asked about not being sure what goals to set. And um, sometimes this can be like a really great conversation to have with your healthcare provider, or if you're active with Blue Circle Health, one of the clinicians, because there are some sort of there are some things you can work on relative to, let's say you're just kind of focusing in on your diabetes management right now.
Mhm.
Some things that are kind of big bang for your buck, right? And what I mean by that is, um, if I work on with my team stabilizing my overnight blood sugars,
Mhm.
that's a big bang for the buck, because if you
Oh,
break down
definitely.
that 24-hour period of a day, and if I'm sleeping or, doing what I should be doing for a big chunk, 6, 8 hours a night, that's going to gain you a lot of ground in moving you towards those goals. Or maybe if you're having low blood sugars frequently, that's going to be like very high on the list of things that your healthcare provider will want to help you sort of work through. And so if you're having trouble figuring out kind of what goals make sense for you to set, start asking those around you. And like relative to your diabetes, it's a great question to talk with your healthcare providers about, like, what makes sense for me. Any thoughts on that, Carrie?
Yeah, exactly. You're not stuck in your own head when it comes to creating these goals. So using the resources around you is a great way to do it. If you're an active member of Blue Circle Health, any of us are going to be happy to help out. Even thinking of how Catherine can help out, for the using or remembering to give insulin or wanting to give insulin. So she's going to be a really great resource for you. Anyone else on the team, if you're using your own team or are not currently an active member, then yeah, check in, even if it's just a simple message to your provider about, what could I do differently, as a way to, just like that is the overnight highs. I have struggled with that. And it wasn't something that came to the forefront of my mind in thinking about what I could do better in order to feel better. And obviously it was because I was tired from not getting the best sleep that I could, but having someone else, point that out, um, saved me a lot of mental load of trying to figure that out for myself. Yeah, so definitely using the support system that you have around us or have around you, whether that's through Blue Circle, through your local providers, through your family, through your friends. Those are the people who know you best, and are just that one step away from your own brain that's getting in the way of you.
Yeah, totally. That happens to me all the time. I'm too close to my own situation. So,
Mhm.
keeping a look at time, we do have some other great questions that I think would be helpful to run through. Um, One great question here: how many goals should I set? Is there an ideal number of goals? What do you think about that?
Oh, that's a good question. And there's no right answer. It's all going to come down to you, what you feel is attainable, and also a bit about your personality. So everyone's a bit different with it. Depending on how big the goal is, I probably like one or two New Year's resolution level goals and then break it down from there. If you're going smaller than that full year frame, like 3 to 5 could be a good one. But again, you don't have to pick 5 goals just because I said the number 5. If you feel that one or two is what you're able to attain right now and focus on, making sure that it's specific, that it's measurable, that it's attainable, it's relevant, it's time bound. However many feel that you can do it, and it doesn't have to be the same amount each time, but really just lean into what works for you, and taking the time part into consideration. It's very easy to overestimate how long it takes to do something or how much effort it's going to be, or even to underestimate how much time it is or how much effort. So really just check in on yourself, on if you're feeling like you're overwhelming yourself, then pull back on that.
Yeah.
Let's start with 3 to 5, see if that works.
Yeah, that's great. Well, another great question that's come in is um, asking about, what if something big in my life changes? I've set some goals, but all of a sudden I've got maybe a big job change that came out of blue, or maybe some loss I'm coping with all of a sudden, or something like these big disruptive events. How do I keep myself kind of thinking in the right way relative to my goals when that kind of stuff happens?
Yeah, that's a great question. On the worksheet, there's that section of obstacles and solutions, but like you said, we can't see all of these obstacles coming. So giving yourself the grace that none of your goals are set in stone, all of them are modifiable based on what you feel like you can attain, can really help you and give yourself the permission to not add your goals as a stressor when you're dealing with something stressful in life. Um, and just, but also don't abandon the goals because you want to keep yourself in focus as life changes. So maybe putting them towards the floor level of goals rather than the push levels can help you to move through and adjust the rest of your life until you're ready to focus more on the goals. Um, but really, the summary is going to come down to giving yourself grace and permission to do what you need to do rather than having these shoulds in the air. I like to call it shoulding all over the place, of where you just do what you think other people want you to do, what you should do, when really it comes down to what you need to do for you, since you're the one that matters. Don't
Yeah,
should
that's
all over the
great.
place.
Yeah, I love that. That's a fun saying. We've got one last question that I think we've got time for, and then I'll close things up. But what if I
Sorry, I
comp
just put in that the Livongo app has helped. I used to work there.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. We've got a handful of Livongo former Livongo teammates there. So that's great. That kind of puts a smile on our face, I'm sure. Um, Last question for today. What
Yep.
if I accomplish all of my goals way too early, right? Like, oh, okay, it's February or March and I've knocked all my goals out. Talk to me
Well,
about
then
that.
you, well, Scott, you're going to do webinar 2.0 and I don't need to be here. So that's definitely a good problem to have, but it also doesn't mean that you're so amazing that you don't have to do anything. That might mean that the goal might not be aligned with your why, that it might not be big enough for what you actually want to achieve. So when you feel like you've reached the goal in that time frame, think about what you want next, or if there's anything that can be changed. If you're good on that goal, great. Maybe switch topics into a different part of your life that aligns with your why. But also don't feel, say if you finish your goal in February and you're like, well, I can do more. Go ahead and make that change and make a bigger goal for yourself, or modify that goal, change up the specifics or the measurements of it, or even the time, so that you can keep that motivation going by continuing on with the action.
Yeah, that's great. The ads in the chat, if you're running certain amount of miles, and you reach the goal around running those miles, maybe run it faster or do more miles, kind of adjusting and adapting those goals. I love that approach. I think that's great.
Exactly. No one, we don't want Sherry claiming that she ran the turkey trot in April just because she can.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. All right. Well, just keeping an eye on time here. Again, we really appreciate everyone attending and sharing your time with us today. Goal setting can be tough, and especially tough when dealing with diabetes and setting goals related to diabetes, right? It can take a lot of strength and courage to talk about some of these things. And I don't know, I think you should be proud of yourself for being here and thinking about this stuff. We certainly are. It's also, as my dogs are going crazy in the background, I don't know if you can hear that, but
No,
it's
you're
important
good.
to us that you all know that we're here rooting for you, whether you're an active program participant or longtime Full Circle community member. You are certainly not alone out there. Um, as we talked about in the chat, we're just kind of starting to play around with these webinars and these different formats, and kind of figuring out what can we do more to bring more value to you. So just please stay tuned for future events like this, and please do share your feedback. We really, we work to implement one of those ideas and suggestions right here live on the fly. So we really do value that. Depending on how you joined, you may see a survey pop up once you close out of here. We'd love to know if this was valuable to you, if you'd like us to do more of these, and what topics you'd like us to cover. So please take a moment to send that in. And Carrie, thank you again. This was amazing, very, very helpful and informative, and a lot of fun too. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for those brave enough to put in the chat. And thank you, Scott, for helping out. And we have a little
Special
visitor.
guest. Yep, I love it. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.